What's going on, my people? Welcome to my Porsche Cayman. Yeah, boys, so kind of did a thing. So let's talk about what's happened to the Clio first before we talk about this Porsche. Because I know a lot of you are probably wondering where that car has gone. So some of you may remember in the last video I made, I did say if I have one more issue with that Clio that I was going to sell it. I think this got to the point midway through my ownership cycle where I was like, yo, if one more thing breaks, and this shit is going straight onto Auto Trader, and I think I'd had enough. But as soon as, you know, I kind of got to that point, things started to like stop breaking. And well, you'll never guess what happened. The inner drive shaft went after some spirited driving, and well, yeah, that's pretty much what happened. So if you guys are after a Clio, I've not sold it yet, so definitely get in contact. I'll put the list price here, and I'll put like the Auto Trader listing in the description. If you are interested, if the car hasn't already sold already. But yeah, like literally that car, I spent so much on it to keep it on the road. It's probably fine now for the next owner, because I mean, I fucking fixed everything, but I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And I was like, fuck it. I need another car. What do I want? And it was pretty much between this or an S2000. And as you can clearly tell by the fact we are sat in the Porsche right now, I bought a fucking Cayman. Now, there is a few things about Porsches which people kind of get misconstrued with. So I want to take you guys on this journey with me. Hopefully it will be a cheap journey and it won't be as expensive as that Clio. And to be honest, I genuinely believe in the first year of me owning this car, I will probably spend less on it than I did that Renault Clio. So let's talk Honda S2000 first, because you know, it's probably a point of contention for you guys. Like, why didn't you get an S2K? They are brilliant cars, and I have got a real soft spot for Japanese cars. Having owned an MX-5, a Suzuki Swift, I think I know how well the Japanese make reliable sports cars. And that was one of the major things coming from the Clio that I was looking for. That's not to say that Porsche don't make reliable cars. Most Porsche cars are incredibly reliable. Kind of after this one was made. A lot of people will know that some of these cars had bore score issues, IMS issues, which could result in a rebuild of in excess of £10,000. So let's hope that doesn't happen with me. Otherwise, I might cry. I might fucking cry. I don't have £10,000, as you can imagine. And honestly, the only thing holding me back from buying an S2K over this was probably the fact that it was a convertible. I've lived with a convertible in the UK before, and it's safe to say that it was just a fucking farce. We get snow here in Wolverhampton, and having a cloth top convertible in the snow without a garage, it's, why would you do that? I'm never doing that ever again, by the way. All right, she's driving so slow. This flat six, baby! Let's go! Yes, sir! Yes, sir! Yeah, I owned the MX-5. I went through the motions with that car, and you know what? It was really enjoyable. When the sun did come out, you know, for every fucking the 2 hours I got in the sun every year, it was nice. But to actually live with on a daily basis, to maintain that roof, leaks, oh my God. If you know me or you've been following me on Twitter for a few years, you might know that MX-5 was a leaky fuck. And by the fact that it hasn't had a recent MOT, I'm going to assume that car was scrapped. So that was one of the major reasons that I didn't get an S2K. I was just scared of the roof. Hard tops are out there, but I was like, well, if I'm going to go to that, you know, those lengths, I might as well just go and get a coupe anyway, because the rigidity is going to be better, insulation overall is going to be better, it's going to be easier to live with, those kind of things. So that is how I ended up here. So I drove an S, I drove a non-S. The reason why I ended up with this version, not a Cayman S, is actually because this was probably the first one that I saw that was in really nice condition and within the price range. Do I regret not getting an S? So I've had this car for 2 months now. At the moment, no. I am getting an unbelievable 30 miles to the gallon in this car. I thought I was gonna get like 12. I'm getting 30 on the combined cycle. Unbelievable. In an S, would that be a little bit lower probably. The taxes are quite a bit higher in the UK. I think it's like around £700. I'll put a thing on the screen to correct me if I'm wrong, as where this is a little bit cheaper. So those were the reasons why I went with a non-S over an S. So I got a good deal, haggled him down, got a really good deal. The original listing was 13.5, I got it down to 12.5, so I was like, yo, that's sick. And yeah, I think anyone who's been following the channel will know that I am a pretty big Porsche guy. I've grown up around Porsches pretty much all my life, along with like Beamers, a lot of German cars around in my life, which is weird to think that, you know, I've been buying a lot of Japanese cars, you know, pretty much since I had my license. But German cars, a lot, you know, I think everyone in my family I know has owned a 3 Series at some point in their life. My dad had this exact car, it was a 0.2, not a 0.1, in black. I think it was a non-S. Then he had a 981, a white S. And that kind of basically continued until now, where he actually has a blue GT4, which some of you may have seen on my social medias. So that's definitely had an influence. I've been on road trips around Europe in Porsches, and I just love them. Even driving them on things like Assetto Corsa, I know it's not the same to compare simulators to real life cars. It's not the same thing, but you can get a good feel for cars. You get a good feel for cars in sims, and you know, I think when I started to drive some of these cars in those sims, I just had a newfound appreciation for like the balance, how neutral these cars are and how linear these cars are. Even before I bought one, I kind of knew what I was getting myself into because I had driven some of my dad's very briefly, and because of the experience I had in the sims. Like, you can kind of, once you've driven one and then you go into the sim and you're kind of like, oh, they actually are quite similar. I think it was actually probably a similar situation to when I bought my Clio. As soon as I drove that Clio, I knew I wanted to buy it. And I think as soon as I drove a Cayman, I was like, yo, no, I need one of these. And it's safe to say it was a little bit of a step up. So I obviously had 2 Suzuki Swifts, one written off, as we all know. Had the MX-5, which was about 150 brake. Then went up to the 172, which actually made 182 brake after I put the 182 manifold on it. And now we've come up to this, which is actually putting out around 250, 260. Again, I'll put it on the screen. I'm not, you know, I didn't look at any numbers before I recorded this video. So the progression's been very steady. I feel like as far as my driving ability goes, it's probably right where it should be in terms of an upgrade. But even at slow speeds, you can just feel the chassis move underneath you. The communication between all the wheels is mad. The engine literally being there, like literally there. Like you can hear it being right there as well. I think it definitely needs to be a little bit louder. I think an exhaust and potentially a carbon intake might have to happen. But you know, all those things, like, they just compound into what is an unbelievable driving experience. A complete shock to the system having owned what I've owned. I have noticed a few things having owned it, you know, for the last 2 months that are good and bad. So for example, the shifter, I think the linkage is loose. I think the cable is loose. So the shifter is nowhere near as notchy as it needs to be right now. So whether I upgrade to a short shifter or just do the cable, I might do the cable to begin with and then see if I want to do a short shifter afterwards, kind of thing. But it's nowhere near as notchy as even as my MX-5 was. My MX-5 was significantly better than what this is like right now. I think I melted the brake sensor on my first trip out, so yeah, I don't think this car was driven that hard before I got it. You know, there's a few bits and bobs like that. It is an old car, 2007 reg, I believe this car is, so there's a few bits and bobs that need to get replaced, but for the most part, it's great. The steering, the last Porsche hydraulic steering rack, it'll be really hard to decide between this and the MX-5 steering, you know, which is mental. You can even compare an MX-5 to a Porsche in that way, because the MX-5 without a doubt was the best steering I'd ever experienced in a car before this. It would be really hard. It would be really, really hard. I think maybe the MX-5 was a little bit less assisted, maybe? Is that the wrong way of saying it? I don't know. But regardless, oh, it's like I can taste the road through the steering wheel. It's mental. I don't think the last owner drove it that hard, and it was garaged. It only did like 3,000 or 4,000 miles per year, so it did enough miles to the point where it was driven, but not loads to the point where it was kind of driven to the average amount, let's say. So the miles have been kept down the last few years. I mean, that's definitely not going to be the case when I've got it now, because I'm dailying it, so I'm probably going to put like 12K on it a year. But these cars are meant to be driven! And driven hard at that. It's a Porsche. These cars are meant to be pinged off the limiter, heel and towing, But before I do all that, you know, it needs some preventative maintenance, and we're going to talk about that in a different video, I think. So yeah, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.